Okay, let's talk a bit about the two. Well, we used to be the two solitudes, French and English. Yeah, well, there's a whole bunch more solitudes here going on.
Yeah.
If I'm a First Nations artist and I walk into this building and I'm going to go work in that space with that dressing room, I'm walking into a structure that's not mine,
Yeah.
that's not of my nature, that's not of the way I do storytelling. So does that not like hobble the First Nations artist right at the beginning?
Sure, and that's one of the things I was trying to describe earlier. It's like one of the big things that I remember what it was like to be here as an artist, as an actor in a show, and the heightenedness of it, the prestige of it, or the perceived prestige of it, you know. And so when anything goes wrong, it's not like, oh, this thing is very inconvenient and disappointing. It's like, no, Canada did this to me, right? Like the NAC fucked this up, right? And so it's everything is much more heightened. And so and also we come with all of our history. We come with all of the you know, being told we can't, being imprisoned for celebrating our stories, our songs, our dances. And so that weight is always present. And so for sure, like a lot of what I see our role here in our department is to like be a cushion and to make sure that those artists are safe here, culturally safe, physically,
and how do you
mentally,
do that?
spiritually safe. Well, we make sure that we get ahead of all those things. We like allow for smudging to happen wherever they need to smudge. Those kinds of things. We're to make sure that they aren't being like racism or any kind of like discrimination isn't occurring against our artists, and to ensure that they feel supported and loved and welcome and celebrated here, and not that the institution, the harsh concrete walls of this institution are, you know, putting friction on them.
The Western European idea of art, which we are gradually trying to wear away from and have been trying to do it for 75 years, is hierarchy, right? You get higher and higher, you get the high arts, and you get the great artists, and you get the really great artists, and then you get the sirs and whatever. And which is why we have big buildings with fancy stuff, because it's supposed to be taking us up to the heights of art. We don't quite believe in that anymore.
Yeah.
It's an old idea, but it's hard to kind of get it out of the system. I'm never clear with First Nations storytelling traditions if there is hierarchies in that, or does it have an egalitarianism that we don't comprehend from our neck of the woods, so to speak?
Yes, I think that again, that's why one of the things I miss in this building is how hard it is to put things in the round. There's a lot of work that is built for the round in Indigenous theater.
Give me an example.
Well, there's plays that are written in that way, for example. But like, you know, the powwow is done, and you know, we see that in the round, or in the idea of a circle. I mean, the culture of Indigenous so much of Indigenous culture is centered around cycles, and the circle, and the equality that is inherent in a circle. In a proscenium theater, there is an all automatic intrinsic hierarchy in place. But this is important, and the audience is passive. In the round, we can see each other. We can see each other across the space. We're all in the same space equally, which is, you know, all councils are set in the round. Like all of those that's that idea of cyclical storytelling, cyclical stories. I think like my favorite example, I think, of Indigenous theater, and just embodies it so completely, is Marie Clemence's Burning Vision, the play Burning Vision.
I never saw it.
When we did it in the premiere production, it was of course set in the round, and it was beautiful. It has this amazing accumulation to the climax, and it's a play about the uranium that was mined in the north of Canada, that was used on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And it also is about this prophecy by a Dene seer who foresaw the impacts of the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombs and the impacts of the uranium on his people. He had a vision 150 years before they dug for uranium of these strange people coming to the Great Slave Lake in a flying canoe and burying into the ground to pull up a sacred stone and flying it down in their canoe down to a desert where they turned the stone into fire and dropped it on the Dene people. That was his vision. And that vision relates to like how the relation between indigenous and possibly Japanese people, and that whole, maybe there's a whole Marie Clement's fourth dimensional like genius, mind-blowing vision. That play sort of it also has like the people who, the impacts of the uranium mining in the north with all of the cancer. Like the miners would bring the tailings home and put them in like sandboxes for their kids, and the kids would play in the black sandy tailings of the uranium mine. Like it was just ubiquitous, right? They would just spread all over. People, they didn't realize the dangers. And the ore carriers carrying it down the rivers, and the radium painters who like painted the watches and the dials, who all got cancer. So those are all characters within the play. A test dummy called Fat Man is this test dummy down in the Nevada Test Center. And there's a little boy, he's a little native boy who's the spirit of uranium that is found in it's just
What's the name of this play?
Burning Vision. Read
I'm
it.
an idiot.
And you'll read that play and you'll be like, how the fuck do you stage that? It's just so impossible. It's so brilliant. Peter Hinton, of course, staged it brilliantly. Anyway, so that play, when we did it, is in the round. And it makes so much sense in the round. I saw a student production of it at NTS, and the students did a bang-up job, did an amazing job. But it was in proscenium. And so in the climax, all those characters accumulate on the stage in this sort of gyre of like storytelling, that they're sharing lines across space and time. But when you see that in a proscenium, it's just it's like a Christmas card. Like
Right,
people
right.
just crowding the stage, looking out, like it just doesn't work. It's awkward. And so some pieces just require that kind of flexibility to be in the round.
When you write, when you write your plays, do you write with a stage in mind?
Yes, I write with images, anyways. Like I write with what I imagine. Like so, for example, Where the Blood Mixes, I always imagined was set at the bottom of a river, even though like they're in a bar and they're on the side of the river. I always imagined that you could stage it where the characters are literally on a river bottom, at least visually.